Hi, I'm Jake. I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2, or 2. I love Pathfinder 2. It's freaking awesome. And I love the undead, so we're going to talk about necromancers. I mean, I don't, love the undead. That's going a little too far. I'm, fond of them. About as much as I'm fond of Ghast. Because, Ghast. Undead. Anyway, so the Impossible Playtest is what I'm going to loosely cover today, but mostly the Necromancer. I've read both of them, the Runesmith and the Necromancer, and I have to say that if you have hopes or an idea of what the Necromancer is before reading this class or before hearing it in this video, cast them aside. Because I had expectations, and I was just disappointed. Take this as its own thing. This is Paizo's take on how a wielder of the power of undeath works. I will give you my summary first of what I think of these classes as a whole. I think they are both playable, as they are. I think that the Necromancer needs a couple of tweaks that'll hopefully come through after the reviews and feedback for the playtest in order to be really functional and as fun as I'd want it to be. And the Runesmith, similarly, it ends up feeling like a thaumaturge because you use one hand and another to do special things as far as the handedness goes. Or maybe more like a magus, because you do stuff with your offhand. Both of these classes are meant to be set up and activate or support. Those are two concepts that they used in this playtest. And they both are support in a way. They can both be supportive. They're not just a blaster class, but then we don't really have just a blaster class. The fact that they're both set up and then activate is a little annoying to me. Primarily with the Necromancer. But they are both playable. You just have to do stuff before you can do stuff. And that just, you can't just start doing stuff right off the bat. You have to set things up to do later on. And I hate that delay. It just eats up actions at the beginning of a combat. For no apparent reason except you gotta. That's the tax you pay for playing the class. This seems silly. Alright, so Necromancer. I'm not going to read every little bit of the Necromancer, but I am going to read each of its powers and each of its feats. So, something that I like about the Necromancer is that it starts off, the key attribute is intelligence, obviously, but it has a focus on being a little hardier than other casters. The hit point starts off with 8+ con modifier, and the saving throws you start off expert in fortitude. It's an occult caster only. I want to skip directly to the Necromancer spells per day. Look at the spell ranks and the spells per level. You start off with 5 cantrips and 1 spell at first level. You have 5, but you have 1 per day. It's a prepared caster, which some people think is weird, that it's not spontaneous. But I get it, it kind of makes sense to me. You have to learn these things. It's not like the power of death flows through you from birth. That's a sorcerer. This, you research and learn how to necromance. To learn how to put the romance in Necromancer. So the spells per day, and the fact that they're occult spells, is a lot like a psychic. This class ends up feeling mechanically a lot like a psychic, because there's a heavy reliance on focus spells, like the amped cantrips of psychics, and they have very few spells you can cast per day that are not cantrips or focus spells. I think that because the psychic functioned, they knew that it would work again, and they just sort of reflavored psychic. The Necromancer is trained in what you would expect it to be trained in as far as weapons and armor. It's trained in simple weapons and unarmed attacks, and it's trained in light armor and unarmored defense. It's a spellcaster. That's what they do. However, there are some abilities that allow it to be like a sort of melee-ish person. Like if you spec for it, you really can do some melee things, depending on what feats you take. So I'm going to read you one of the key terms. The other key term is spell shape. You know what a spell shape is. It's meta magic. It's an action you take before you do a spell to modify the spell. So key terms, Thrall. Thralls are undead creatures, but they are not minions with a summoned trait, which is fucking weird. They can't take actions, but they can be used for various abilities. I want to be really clear. They can't take actions. There are spells that you can take later that force them to take actions. Otherwise, they can't take any actions, including moving. They're more like totems than undead creatures. Unless noted otherwise, a thrall is small or medium chosen by you when you create it and must be created in an unoccupied space. A thrall can contribute to flanking as though it were able to make melee unarmed strikes. A thrall has 1 hit point, is automatically hit by attacks, and automatically fails all saving throws. A thrall is immune to bleed, death effects, disease, mental, and poison. A thrall is level -1 if an effect needs to refer to its level. Spells or abilities that create thralls have the thrall trait. That's always -1. It's a shit creature. And because they can't take actions, they can't move or attack unless something otherwise specifies. And there are a few ways to get them to move or to take attack actions. But they also only last a minute, unless otherwise stated. When you start off as a Necromancer, you know 10 cantrips and 5 first-rank spells. But you can only cast 1 first-rank spell per day, and you can only have prepared 5 cantrips. I have to say, I love the flavor they chose for the Necromancer. Alright, so the Dirge is how you have your spells prepared. Your occult spells become a part of an internal dirge that echoes throughout your body, bones, and even your spirit. Each day to prepare your spells, you pull forth pieces of your dirge to vocalize. You're chanting creepily to memorize your spells. This is awesome. And in Necromancer spellcasting it says, as a Necromancer, your chants generally evoke the laments, requiems, and other rites for the dead, while your gestures evoke unnatural movement of muscle and cracking of bone. That's awesome! So they hit the flavor dead on. This is great as far as flavor goes and theme. They did this well. Alright, so grave spells are the name of the focus spells that you get. You also have grave cantrips. They're just like witch hexes. You start off with 1, create Thrall, and you get more later on if you take feats for it. So, to start off with, create Thrall is 1 action, first rank cantrip. Range is 30 feet, duration 1 minute. You conjure forth an expendable undead thrall in range. If you have the expert necromancy class feature, you can create up to 2 thralls, increasing to 3 if you have master necromancy, and 4 if you have legendary necromancy. When you cast the spell, you can have up to 1 thrall created by this spell make a melee unarmed strike using your spell attack modifier for the attack roll. This attack deals your choice of 1d6 bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. This strike uses and counts toward your multiple attack penalty. It's heightened for every 2 ranks. The damage increases by 1d6. So the damage is never going to be a big deal. And they only last a minute. And it has to be within 30 feet. And they don't move on their own. And they don't speak or make noise, but they still threaten areas around them somehow. Something I want to point out, correct me if somebody else has seen it, but I have seen no limitation on how many thralls you can currently have active. Yes, they last a minute. Yes, it takes an action to create them normally, but some feats create multiples at once. There's no limit to how many you can have active at one time. So just keep that in mind, and you're probably going to be creating them ahead of time. So that's a really interesting part of this class. Yeah, they're likely to clamp down on that and put a limit on it, but that's going to be hard to put a hard limit on it because they've given so many powers and feats that create multiples and need to use multiples at once. So it might just stay that way. That's a cattail in my eye. Yes, I love you too, Cast. Also, at first level, you get the ability Consume Thrall. The cycle of necromancy allows you to eradicate one of your own thralls to restore some of your magic and use your grave spells more frequently. You gain the Consume Thrall action. Consume Thrall 1. Action, concentrate, manipulate, necromancer occult. Frequency once per 10 minutes. Requirements, one of your thralls is within 15 feet of you. You crumble one of your thralls to dust to consume its necromantic magic. You destroy one of your thralls within 15 feet of you and regain 1 focus point. Okay, so if it were me, that would be how I would refocus. Just because I can. That's right, you don't need a body to create one of these thralls. Which, by the way, Thrall is a shitty name. I think of Thrall as like something that's mind-controlled, a servant, a slave. Maybe husk? Because these things don't have any spark of life in them. They're not alert, aware, they don't think, they don't talk, they don't communicate in any way. They don't even follow directions very well unless you force them to do so through magic. Husk makes more sense. They're just a shell. Fine, Thrall. Each of the subclasses is called a Grim Fascination. As a Necromancer, you select one Grim Fascination at first level. This fascination is a focus of necrotic study that you have developed a greater mastery over. However, Grim Fascinations don't prevent you from studying and using other forms of necromancy. Your choice of Grim Fascination grants you a class feat that gives you your first grave spell, a general feat, and a Thrall enhancement that applies to any Thrall you create. So there's 3. There's Bone Shaper, Flesh Magician, and Spirit Monger. I love the idea of the Flesh Magician. And I'm so glad they came out with a class that is gross enough to validate the grossness I've been creating with the Fleshcrafter archetype. I'm just so happy they did this. They're like, it's okay to talk about flesh wrapping around an enemy or a friend and giving them a benefit or a drawback. Or like exploding corpses. Yes, it's exploding corpses. So Bone Shaper. Bone Shapers, also known as Osteomancers, craft what they desire from the skeletons of the dead or simply create new skeletons by expanding and shaping small bone pieces. Class feat Bone Spear. And you get the general feat Fleet, because bone things are generally lighter because they don't have any flesh on them, so they move a lot faster. So I am really happy that it's a caster that gets a general feat at first level. That's really fun. I hope they don't take that away. So Bone Shaper Thrall enhancement. Your thralls are well constructed and nimble. Whenever one or more of your thralls would take damage from an effect requiring a reflex save, you can attempt a DC 15 flat check. If you succeed, you choose one thrall to take no damage, and on a critical success, none of the thralls take damage. Yes, on a critical success, DC 15 flat check. That means you have to get a 25 or roll a natural 20. It's a flat check. It's only on a natural 20. Okay. It's just weird. I mean, can they admit it like a DC 8 and then a DC 18? Maybe not. Flesh Magician. Flesh Magicians, also known as Necromancers, are experts at the destruction, production, and manipulation of flesh and muscles. Their thralls generally take on the form of zombies and other creatures of dead flesh. I would fucking love the feel of playing this in-game. Class feat Dead Weight. General feat Toughness. Dead Weight is your thrall runs up to an enemy and wraps around them, and they're immobilized or grabbed or restrained. They're just like held in place by all the weight of the dead on them. General feat Toughness, as you'd expect from a zombie-mancer. Thrall enhancement. You can still make use of a destroyed thrall's flesh. Whenever one of your thralls is destroyed, you can cause the thrall to leave behind difficult terrain in the space they were destroyed. The difficult terrain lasts for 10 minutes. Does that ever matter? Do you guys use difficult terrain? Like, when it comes up in an adventure, sure, it happened, so I use it, but it almost never comes up. I just... Yeah, okay, it can be used to strategic advantage, but it's just sort of this, like, extra little nagging thing you have to remember. Spirit Monger. Spirit Mongers, also known as Vitamancers. Sounds like it's a gray paste that I'll be eating. Seek the secrets of the soul and play with the eternal energies of the living and dead. Their thralls often resemble ghosts and spirits. Class feat Life Tap. General feat Die Hard. Life Tap makes one of your thralls run up to 30 feet to an enemy and start draining the life out of them. Like, they actually become drained, and you gain life in response to that based on how much life they lost from the drained. It's cool. Thrall enhancement for Spiritmonger. Your thralls, while still being tied to the physical world, have an incorporeal essence. Whenever one of your thralls would deal physical damage, you can choose for that damage to be spirit or void damage instead. And, as a Necromancer, anytime a creature takes damage from something you do that's void, you can choose for it to be vitality instead of void, whatever's going to hurt them the most. I love that, because that was my big concern with having something that does just void damage. Sometimes, like, creatures that are close to undeath or death that do void damage have no power over or to affect things that are dead or undead. It doesn't make any sense. I'm so great at necromancy that I can only buff bad guys that are undead. This is perfect. It's a good solution. It's elegant. It's simple. You also get a new lore, undead lore. It can be used to recall knowledge regarding undead creatures, haunts, and effects caused by undead creatures or other necromancers, but it can't be used for recall knowledge for any other topics, and it automatically increases as you level. At 3rd level, necromancers get an ability called Inevitable Return. If an enemy within 60 feet dies, you get to resummon them as one of your thralls. Husks. It's only nice because it saves you actions, because so many of your abilities depend on having active thralls. And so at the beginning of a fight, you have to create them because they don't follow you from location to location. You can't carry them, and they last a minute. So it's only for in combat. Now the feats. And the feats are also going to include some spells, which I love. I do really like casting classes that have a lot of options for gaining focus spells just from taking feats in that class. And Necromancer has a lot of those. Before I go on, I want to say that the solution to the problem of not feeling like a minion-mancer for the Necromancer is cast the Create Undead ritual. That's really it. I mean, you could also have the Summon Undead spell, but the Create Undead ritual is what I was actually looking for. But that means that anybody can do that, so you don't have to be a Necromancer to necromance. Just get the Create Undead ritual and make undead. Then you would feel a lot more like a minion-mancer. And then it's kind of cool that you have extra thralls that you can create that don't count as minions, because you can only have 4 minions. 1st level feats, Bone Speaker. You can recall knowledge on living creatures with an internal or external skeleton using undead lore. If you do, you can learn only information pertaining to the biology of a creature. You cannot learn information about any learned abilities or abilities granted by items, so like, not spells. Additionally, you can perform a forensic examination on a corpse using undead lore instead of medicine if the corpse came from a creature with a skeleton. This is one of the rare feats that makes actual sense to me. Like, you know about the bodies of living and dead creatures, you should know about the bodies of living and dead creatures. I love this feat. I think this might be my favorite feat they have, because it makes sense. And it expands on your undead lore that levels with you anyway, and it requires thinking. Like, yes, dragons have skeletons, so you can know about them, but not about what spells they might have. Next 1st level feat, Bone Spear. Every bone within a thrall is a potential weapon when needed. You learn the Bone Spear Grave spell. Bone Spear. 2 actions, range 10 feet, targets 1 creature. You shape a thrall into a spear of jagged bone. Destroy one of your thralls, then make a melee spell attack roll against the AC of each creature in a 15-foot line from where the thrall was. It goes through all of them. Like a bone spear should. The spear deals 1d8 piercing damage or double damage on a critical hit. This spell counts as 2 attacks toward your multiple attack penalty, but the penalty doesn't increase until you've made all the attacks. This is beautiful. Every rank it increases the damage by 2d8. I bet that's going to get nerfed. This is just beautiful. This really lets you live out the fantasy of necromancers from video games. I love this. I love the low-level abilities because they shape how you think and feel about the entire class. Next 1st level feat, Dead Weight. You can manipulate the muscles and joints of your foes to delay their movements. You learn the Dead Weight Grave spell. Dead Weight, range 60 feet, targets one Dead weight, 2 actions, range 60 feet, targets one of your thralls, defense fortitude, duration 1 round. Yeah, that part's not great. You cause a thrall to launch itself at a creature within 15 feet. See, some of these do let your thralls move, but it's not just natural. You have to make them do it. That's why I say they're husks. Like, they don't do anything. They don't have anything in themselves. You make them go do shit. You fill them with energy to make them explode or whatever. Anyway, then you necromantically warp the thrall's body to fuse around the creature, within 15 feet of the creature. The creature must attempt a fortitude saving throw. This spell ends if the thrall is destroyed or a creature that failed the save successfully escapes. But the spell also ends in 1 round, so Critical success, the target is unaffected. Success, the target takes a minus 10 foot status penalty to its speeds. Failure, the target is immobilized. It can attempt to escape. Critical failure, the target is grabbed by the thrall. It can attempt to escape. I like this. It's cool. I hate that it lasts for 1 round, because it's a focus spell. It's not just a focus cantrip. It takes a focus point to maybe keep an enemy busy for a round. Maybe. Yeah, you don't like it either, huh? Next level 1 feat, Life Tap. The life force of your enemies is yours to take. You learn the Life Tap Grave spell. Hi, yeah. Life Tap, 2 actions, range 30 feet, targets 1 thrall. Defense, fortitude. Using a thrall as a vessel, you attempt to drain the essence of a creature and use it for yourself. The target thrall strides up to 30 feet, then one creature of your choice adjacent to it must attempt a fortitude saving throw. The targeted thrall is then destroyed. Critical success, the target's unaffected, like usual. Success, the creature is drained 1, but recovers after 1 minute. You or an ally of your choice within 30 feet of the thrall regain hit points equal to the amount the creature lost by becoming drained. Sure, it's not a lot. Okay, but you can keep doing it. Because, I know, it takes a focus point, but you can also eat a thrall for a focus point, and it costs you nothing to make one. So you can do this a few times in combat. Failure as success, but drain 2. Critical failure as success, but drain 3. And I like that it levels well. And I'm really glad that they gave something to players that gives life for the drained condition. It's vampiric. I like vampires and vampiric things. Next level 1 feat, Reach of the Dead. Free action, it's spell shape. You channel your necrotic magic through a thrall, expending it in the process. If the next action you use is to cast a spell that has a range, you cast that spell from one of your thralls within 60 feet. That thrall becomes the point of origin for your spell. You calculate range and cover from their space instead of yours. The thrall is destroyed. I think that's a waste of a feat because there are such better necromancy feats. Necromancer feats. Yeah, these feats are cool. Second level feats. Conceal spell. It's conceal spell. It's a spell shape. It's 1 action. It conceals your spell. Next level 2 feat. Muscle barrier. You create an extra thick layer of muscle to protect your target. You learn the muscle barrier grave spell. Muscle barrier is 2 actions. Range 60 feet. Targets 1 thrall. Go figure. Like everything, targets your thralls. Duration, 1 minute. You can transform a thrall into layers of thick muscle that wrap around you or an ally. The thrall is split into pieces and flung toward a willing creature within 15 feet of it, destroying the thrall and granting that creature 10 temporary hit points. Hell yes. The creature gains a +1 status bonus to athletics checks until the spell ends, because they have more muscle. The spell ends if all the temporary hit points are gone. For every rank it's heightened, they get 10 more temporary hit points. It's just great. It's really cool. I like it. Some of their focus spells seem to just imitate spells, because they don't get a lot of spells. I find that a little lame, but this one in particular makes perfect sense for them. Next level 2 feat, Necrotic Bomb. It's corpse explosion. Ignore the text it says here. It's a corpse explosion. It's called Necrotic Bomb. Everything in the feat description is a typo, except the Necrotic Bomb grave spell. Because it's a playtest. It's also because it's Paizo, because they've become known for this now. So, Necrotic Bomb, 2 actions, range 60 feet, targets 1 thrall, defense basic reflex. You overload one of your thralls with void energy, causing it to explode. All creatures within a 10-foot emanation of the thrall takes 1d12 void damage with a basic reflex save. This destroys the thrall. Duh. I really wish you could do it to corpses that are not just your thrall, but alright. Heightened. For every rank, it increases the damage by 1d12. I don't like that it's all creatures. Yes, it makes perfect sense, because if a creature just, like, blows up, it doesn't, like, select enemies only. Yeah. This class and the Runesmith both really do require strategy and setup, as I've said. Next level 2 feat, Reaper's Weapon Familiarity. Long blades that can fell or reap in a single swing are classically associated with necromancy, and you take this association to a more practical end. You have familiarity with the great sword. Awesome. Scythe and all axes. No sickle? For the purposes of proficiency, you treat any of these that are martial weapons as simple weapons and any that are advanced weapons as martial weapons. I just love the great sword. You're a mage with a great sword. It's just impressive. Next feat, level 4, Body Shield, reaction, trigger, a creature targets you with an attack and you can see the attacker. Requirements, you are adjacent to at least one of your thralls. You throw one of your thralls that's adjacent to you, placing it between you and the attacker. I'd prefer to say you command it, not like you throw it bodily, but whatever. The thrall grants you a +2 circumstance bonus to AC against the triggering attack. And it's any kind of attack. If the attack still hits, you gain resistance to all damage from the triggering attack equal to your level. Regardless of the result, the thrall is destroyed, as all of the thrall abilities are. Destroying the thralls. So, obviously that's good. I would never choose it, because it's not flashy enough. It's totally valid. It's protective. I'm glad it exists. It's called Get Down! Bony Barrage, level 4 feat. You launch a massive barrage of tiny bones. You learn the Bony Barrage Grave spell. Bony Barrage. 2 actions. Area 30-foot cone. Reflex save. Defense. You shatter the skeleton of a thrall within 30 feet, destroying it and creating a volley of phalanges, teeth, and vertebrae in a 30-foot cone from where the thrall was. Each creature in the area takes 2d10 piercing damage with a basic reflex save. When you cast Bony Barrage, you can shatter a second thrall in the cone's area to cover your allies in bone armor. If you do, the cone doesn't affect your allies. That's a great way to do it! And any ally in the area gains a +1 status bonus to AC until the start of your next turn. Each thrall you shatter is destroyed. Heightened every rank, increases the damage by 1d10. This is amazing. This is great. This is an example of a very well-built feat or spell. It has options. You can protect your friends and give them a benefit at an extra cost. It's just great. It's really good. Next level 4 feat, Draining Strike, 1 action frequency once per turn. You draw the life out of your target using both your weapon and your thralls as a conduit. Make a strike. On a success, you can destroy up to 3 thralls that are within 10 feet of you or your target. For each thrall destroyed this way, the strike deals an additional 1d4 spirit damage and you regain 1d4 hit points. At 15th level, you can summon 3 husks at once with 1 action. But even before that, you can summon them ahead of time and do the Draining Strike once, sacrificing 3 of your thralls. It's most useful at 15th level, but even before that, the thralls last a minute, and there's no limit to how many you can have. So you can just go into combat, and every action that you don't have something else to do, you're just creating a thrall. So Draining Strike is frequently useful. It's a really good feat. 6th level feats, Bone Burst, reaction, trigger, a creature adjacent to one of your thralls uses a manipulate action or a move action, makes a ranged attack, or leaves a square during a move action it's using, and you are within 60 feet of the thrall. You destroy the thrall in an explosion of bone shards directed toward the triggering creature, dealing 2d10 piercing damage with a basic reflex save. This damage increases to 3d10 at 12th level and 4d10 at 18th level. So it's reactive strike by sacking a creature. Reclaim Power, level 6 feat. 2 actions, frequency once per 10 minutes, requirements, consume thrall. You use your thralls to restore yourself. You consume a thrall, which gives you back a focus point, increasing the range to 30 feet and regain 10 hit points. You can destroy up to 4 more of your thralls in range to increase the healing by 10 per thrall, for a total of 50 healing. with a 6th level feat. If you destroy 5 thralls total, you can also decrease your clumsy, enfeebled, frightened, sickened, or stupefied condition by 1. This is amazing, especially considering the fact that you can have an unlimited number of thralls out there. You can only create 1 at a time at low levels, and they only last a minute. But you could easily have 5 thralls out before you do this. You just have to plan for it. But this is great for healing you in combat. You could also use it for out-of-combat healing. Jesus. The Necromancer has utility outside of combat. I mean, for getting back their own focus points and getting back their own hit points really easily. It's just neat. It's a self-healing wizard. Next feat, Zombie Horde. Level 6, you raise what seems like an endless torrent of walking corpses. You learn the Zombie Horde Grave spell.
Yes, I know. Hi.
Zombie Horde, 2 actions, range 60 feet, area squares on the ground, then a 10-foot burst, duration 1 minute. You lure in a horde of ravenous zombies by sacrificing a thrall. The area must contain one of your thralls in it. Your thrall is destroyed. The horde's area is difficult terrain, and whenever a creature begins its turn in the horde, it takes 3d4 bludgeoning damage with a basic fortitude save. Once per round on subsequent turns, you can sustain the spell to move the area up to 10 feet. If you move the area onto one or more of your thralls, you can destroy one thrall it moved onto to increase the size of the area's burst by 5 feet. Okay. The heightened +1 rank increases the damage by 1d4. That also is just a spell, isn't it? Grasping Skeletons? Okay. Seems kind of silly to take away spells and then give spells back as focus spells. Whatever. Rouse Skeletons. It's a 3rd rank spell. Okay. So it's at the same level. Or same rank. The focus spell does, like, slightly more damage? Very slightly? Yes. Okay. Just don't lay against the keyboard. Like I know you're trying to do. There. 8th level feats. Conglomerate of Limbs. You call forth a lumbering mass of fleshy limbs. You learn the Conglomerate of Limbs Grave spell. Ha! Ha! Ugh. Cattail hair in my ear. 2 actions, range 60 feet, duration 1 minute. You conjure forth a huge thrall that has 40 hit points. Whenever an enemy begins its turn adjacent to this thrall, it must succeed at a fortitude saving throw or become grabbed by the thrall for 1 round or until it escapes. That's cool. It's a way to get your undead minions to grab shit. Once per round on subsequent turns, you can sustain the spell to have the thrall stride up to 15 feet, using its many limbs to drag itself across the ground. Heightened +1, the thrall's hit points increase by 10. Yeah, okay, it's useful. It's not all that sexy. It's just not that flashy, because, like, all it's doing is grabbing people. Which is useful, but again, it just seems like another spell that already existed in the occult list. Next, level 8 feat, Osteo Armaments. 1 action, you create a +1 striking weapon of which you are proficient, made of bone and sinew. If this weapon requires ammunition, mundane bone ammunition is created when you reload it. You can have only 1 weapon created this way at a time. If you create another, the original falls apart. If you are not holding the weapon at the end of your turn, the weapon falls apart. The weapon improves to a +2 striking weapon if you're 10th level, a +2 greater striking weapon at 12th, +3 greater striking weapon at 16th, +3 major striking weapon at 19th. You can destroy an adjacent thrall as part of using this action. If you do, the weapon also gains a decaying rune, or the greater decaying rune if you're 15th level or higher, which is fun, and there's no duration. So it's just always there, if you want it to be. I like that for theme. It feels powerful. If you are wanting to make a melee necromancer, this is one of the things that you'll pick, because that's how you do it. That's what you do. Because it's very thematic, if nothing else. 10th level feats. Desperate Surge, 1 action. Frequency once per 10 minutes or until recharged. It's an attack. People in life or death situations can summon up impossible strength. With your mastery of such subjects, you can induce this strength when needed. You can attempt to grab, reposition, shove, or trip a creature using a spell attack roll instead of an athletics check. You can recharge Desperate Surge by making an unarmed strike against a thrall in reach to absorb its strength, which automatically hits, destroys the thrall, and recharges the ability. Cool. I love that it exists. I love that you can use a spell attack roll as athletics. I don't think I have anything else to say about it. It's a good feat. And this next one is also a good feat that it makes sense for a Necromancer to have. Level 10, Life Sense. Your connection to life and death allows you to sense the life force of a creature with a glance. You gain imprecise life sense with a range of 30 feet. This sense allows you to detect living and undead creatures within range. Additionally, you know the current hit points and temporary hit points of any living or undead creature you can see within 30 feet. That's amazingly useful. I think there should be some way of, like, if you happen to take Duskwalker and their life sense and this life sense, that it becomes a precise life sense. Hi, guys. Yeah, hi. Next, level 10 feat, Quick and Casting. It's a free action. It's a spell shape. It's Quick and Casting. Next, level 12 feats. Become as Spirit. Prerequisites, Spirit Monger Grim Fascination. You can move through unwilling creature spaces as though they were difficult terrain. That's awesome. I mean, you might not need to care if you're an offensive caster like this, but you have a lot of, like, support and control options. And if nothing else, your Thralls flank people and you can create them wherever you want, as long as it's not an occupied square. So this would actually be pretty useful for you. Additionally, you ignore natural difficult terrain, which is nice, and gain a +2 circumstance bonus to escape checks. Whenever you destroy a Thrall, you gain resistance to all damage except Force, Ghost Touch, Spirit, or Vitality, equal to half your level for 1 round. I like this. This is some of the Ghost archetype's ability in a 12th level feat. I think this is a really good feat. I hope they don't take any of this away, because I like the little perks here. It's like a lot of little ways you become more like a ghost. I'd also probably say that you seem translucent if you want to. Next, level 12 feat, Necrotic Focus. Your understanding of your body on an atomical level allows you to reharness your necrotic power using your body as a source. Whenever you refocus, completely refill your focus pool. Makes sense. Level 12 feat, Reinforced Skeleton. Prerequisites, Bone Shaper Grim Fascination. You take on the toughness and lightness of bone. You gain resistance to 2 damage types. One is your choice of cold, electricity, or fire, and the other is your choice of slashing or piercing, equal to half your level, and you gain a +10 foot status bonus to your speeds. Awesome! This is a great upgrade for level 12. Whenever you destroy a Thrall, this bonus to your speed increases to +20 feet for 1 round. I just spent an action destroying a Thrall. I don't think I care about the extra feet, because, like, I have a plan here. Whatever. It's a side benefit. I like the resistances. That's a big deal. Really big deal. Next, level 12 feat, Vital Conduit. Prerequisites, Flesh Magician, Grim Fascination. That name still makes me chuckle. You thicken your skin by adding an impossibly thin layer of dense muscle directly under the surface. Think about that for a moment. You're adding muscle under your skin. I'm betting this came from corpses. Increase your maximum hit points by your level. Obviously great. It's an extra toughness. Whenever you destroy a Thrall, each enemy adjacent to you must succeed a Fortitude save against your spell DC or become sickened 1. Great. This by itself is a really good reason to choose Flesh Magician. 14th level, Recurring Nightmare. You summon a lingering spirit that just won't stay dead. You learn the Recurring Nightmare Grave spell. And the other level 14 feat, there really should be more. Skeletal Lancers. I know it's a playtest, I know. Skeletal Lancers. You create a myriad of swift skeletal warriors. You learn the Skeletal Lancers Grave spell. I keep reading Skeletal Dancers. I don't know why. So let's look at Recurring Nightmare and Skeletal Dancers. Recurring Nightmare. 1 action. Yeah, a lot of these focus spells were 2 actions. Stinks. All right, recurring nightmare. 1 action, range 30 feet, duration 1 minute. You conjure a thrall within range. Unlike other thralls, the nightmare can share space with other creatures, and other creatures can move through its space with ease. This thrall doesn't fall if in the air, and any ability that would make it stride makes it fly instead. If this thrall is summoned into or ends its flight in a creature's space, the creature must succeed a will saving throw or become frightened 1 or frightened 2 on a critical failure. Great. Once per round on subsequent turns, you can sustain the spell to have the thrall fly up to 60 feet or to resummon the thrall within range if it has been destroyed. This and other thrall creation things, I love that they don't require sustaining to keep them up. So you can sustain other spells like Summon Undead. Skeletal Lancers. 1 action, range 60 feet, duration 1 minute. You create 5 thralls in different spaces within reach. These thralls carry skeletal lances with a reach of 10 feet. When an enemy makes a strike while in reach of a skeletal lancer thrall, the lancer deals 5 piercing damage to it. The enemy takes this damage only once, even if it's in the reach of multiple skeletal lancers. Once per round on subsequent turns, you can sustain the spell to have any number of these thralls stride up to 30 feet. Cool. A line of pikemen. I mean, that's useful. It's a little bit of extra damage. It's good. It's boring. But again, this is built for strategy. And both of these classes, the Necromancer and the Runesmith, are going to be action-starved. Do anything you can to increase the efficiency of your actions, because you'll need them to feel as useful as other classes have. 16th level feats, Desperate Revival. Has the Void and Healing traits. Frequency once per day. Trigger, you would be reduced to 0 hit points, but not immediately killed. You avoid being knocked out and remain at 1 hit point. Great, that's fine. Oh wait, there's more. Each living creature in a 60-foot emanation must attempt a Fortitude saving throw. You regain hit points equal to half the total damage dealt. Each living creature, your party included. Critical success, the target is unaffected. Success, the target takes void damage equal to half its level. Failure, the target takes void damage equal to its level. Critical failure, the target takes void damage equal to double its level. And remember, when you deal void damage, it's vitality if that would hurt them more. So, like, this could give you a fuck ton of hit points. And obviously it's fun. Next level 16 feet, Effortless Concentration. Free action, trigger, your turn begins. You maintain your active spells with hardly a thought. You immediately gain the effects of a sustained action for one of your active Necromancer spells. That's standard for casters. Flesh Tsunami is the last level 16 feet. You unleash a wave of melted flesh. You learn the Flesh Tsunami Grave spell. I love this spell so fucking much. Flesh Tsunami, 2 actions, area, 30-foot cone, defense, fortitude, duration, 1 minute. You melt one of your thralls within 30 feet, destroying it and creating a wave of sticky liquid flesh that floods out in a 60-foot cone. The area becomes greater difficult terrain. When you cast Flesh Tsunami, you can liquefy a second thrall, which must be in the cone's area to make its limbs grasp your foes. If you do, each enemy in the area must attempt a fortitude saving throw. Critical success. The target is unaffected. Success. The target... This is awesome. Success. The target takes a 10-foot status penalty to its speeds for 1 round. Failure. It's a 20-foot status penalty to its speeds for 1 round. Critical failure. As failure, and the target is immobilized for 1 round or until it escapes. That is needlessly awesome, and it's not actually all that powerful. But it's fun. 18th level. Bind Heroic Spirit. You temporarily bind the spirit of a dead hero into you, gaining some of their talent. You learn the Bind Heroic Spirit Grave spell. Duration 1 minute. You bind the spirit of a hero into your body. This takes 2 actions. You gain a +3 status bonus to attack rolls and saving throws. Whenever you successfully hit a creature with a strike, create a thrall in a space adjacent to your target that lasts for 1 minute. Fuck yeah. This lets you be much better at melee gishing. Next 18 level feat, Ectoplasmic Aura. It's an aura. You and all allies within 30 feet gain a +1 circumstance bonus to AC as the air between them and their enemies thickens with ectoplasm. Additionally, any enemy that ends its turn in this aura must attempt a fortitude saving throw on a failure. It can't use reactions until the start of its next turn. This is lame. It's level 18. That's why it's lame. 18! Ah! Please replace that with something better. Or at least more fun. It's just +1. Ooh, it's only AC, and it's just 18? Really? No! Give them something else. 20 level. Living Graveyard. You conjure forth a massive animated graveyard. You learn the Living Graveyard spell. I'm going to pause on getting to that one. The next level 20 feet just gives you an extra 10th rank spell slot. And the one after that is another spell. So most of their feats, okay, like half their feats, give them more spells. Perfected Thrall. Using your accumulated knowledge of all forms of necromancy, you create the perfect Thrall. You learn the Perfected Thrall focus spell. So I'm going to read Living Graveyard and Perfected Thrall. Living Graveyard. Range 100 feet. Duration 1 minute. I love this one. You conjure forth a gargantuan thrall that has 400 hit points. This thrall is a walking bulk of graves and tombstones held together by the buried dead. So like they're holding each other's hands. The living graveyard violently shakes. All creatures in a 10-foot emanation must succeed a fortitude saving throw or fall prone. Additionally, 5 thralls, using the base thrall statistics, fall from their graves into empty spaces adjacent to the living graveyard. These additional thralls last until the spell ends. Once per round on subsequent turns, you can sustain the spell to have the living graveyard stride up to 60 feet and cause 3 additional thralls to fall from their graves into empty spaces along its path. So obviously it's great because it gives you more things to blow up. Perfected Thrall. Range 60 feet, duration 1 minute. You create a perfect thrall made of pure muscle, covered in a bony exoskeleton, inhabited by the spirit of a mighty warrior. So it's an insect. Okay. You create a thrall that has 200 hit points. Whenever you use an ability that would destroy this thrall, it instead loses 20 hit points. So you can keep blowing the fucker up. Once per round on subsequent turns, you can sustain the spell to have this thrall stride up to 30 feet and have it strike an adjacent enemy using your spell attack modifier on a hit. The target takes 7d10 bludgeoning damage. I like that one a lot better than Living Graveyard. It's badass. And those are all of its feats. So, I'm not going to go over Runesmith in this video, obviously. But, I wanted a Minionmancer. This is not it. It creates more like totems that some spells allow you to move around. It's still good. It's still useful. It still fits the theme. And it's fun. But Pathfinder 2 just isn't like one that you can create 100 zombies in and take your zombie army forth. It's just not. But remember, the Summon Undead spell exists, and it used to be Animate Dead. And so does Create Undead, the ritual. So combine those things along with this, maybe the Reanimator. You'll get all of the necromantic feel you want. I'm definitely going to be talking to them about some of the things I have problems with, but I don't really have a problem with a lot of things. I love that they get general feats and class feats with their grim fascination choice, and I love that they have an internalized lament that they just keep singing in their soul, in their minds all day long. A dirge for the dead that they pull magic from. Awesome! Thank you for letting me borrow your time and your eyeballs. And if you're a patron, thank you for being here all the time. I appreciate you a lot. If you are not a patron and you want to be, because you want to win cool shit like this, go to the Patreon link in the description and sign up for $5 or more, and you'll be entered into the drawing to win this specifically at the end of the month. And if you're bored and you like nerdy friends, come to the Discord. We kind of chat constantly about all sorts of nerdy topics, including like math and builds. If you want to catch up on War of Immortals stuff here, if you want to catch up on Divine Mystery stuff here, thank you very much. See you next time.